Okay, I want to talk about 0 and infinity. First of all, I'm going to tell you, okay, keep mathematics to the side. 0 is a number. In mathematics, 0 is a number, but infinity is not a number. And remember, mathematics is a tautology, or rather, mathematics are tautologies. And so fine, it's all set up so the definitions work and it can count as a number, but it's still a very special number, right? You can't divide by that number, 0, just like you can't divide by infinity. Of course, you can't use infinity in any formula, but you can use 0. Okay, so 0 is a number and maybe a natural number. But isn't it an amount? I'll just use the word amount because it's different from number. I could use the word number, but mathematics owns that word. Okay, and they say it's a number, fine. But what is it in terms of an amount? Is 0 a real amount? Okay, now before we answer that question, I'll go back to mathematics and we'll think about infinity. Okay, according to mathematics, infinity is not a number. Okay, you can't plug it in anywhere. Despite that, it's used in mathematics. So how is it used in mathematics? Well, mathematics is ignores time and process. Right? Things simply are. This formula simply is. A equals B plus 5 is the same as B equals A minus 5. Those are the same. The fact that it takes time to transform one into the other doesn't matter. The fact that it might take a different amount of time to solve an equation in different forms doesn't matter. The fact that you might have B and be looking for A, or have A and looking for B, those differences don't matter. And infinity doesn't work in that scheme. Why? Because infinity implies a process. Right? Infinity implies that there's a process. It's ever more. It's one more step. Okay? It is not a number. So for example, let's try to, with that in mind, try to picture infinity. Let's say you had an infinite number of apples in a bag. What would that look like? You're trying to picture infinity. I know a lot of you will be trying to picture the vastness of space, but you're still trying to picture infinity as a thing. And infinity is a process. It's always one more. It's related to induction. It appears in mathematics in limits, where we say, as this number gets bigger and bigger and bigger forever, what happens to the equation that we're talking about? We use infinity in limits. So you wouldn't have a bag of an infinite bag of apples would not be this huge thing big enough to have infinite apples in it. It would be a small bag, or could be a small bag just big enough to fit one apple. Because the infinite part is that when you pull an apple out, there'd still be another apple to pull out, and you could keep pulling them out. Okay, because infinity is not a number, and an infinite bag of apples would have to be magical like that. That's what that would mean. It's a process. Infinity is always more than whatever you have. It's always more than whatever you've counted. It's always more than whatever number you know. Infinity is always greater. And my premise here is that 0 is the same way. There is no nothing that is actually a thing. Okay? So there is no amount. An amount is of something. So there is no amount 0. And for example, if you take just a volume of space with nothing in it, a perfect vacuum, an ideal vacuum, it would still have something. What? Volume, space. You could move through it. Other objects move through it. Light can move through it. Space. It would occupy that space and be that space. Okay? But it would not be nothing. It would not be 0. It would not be nothing at all. But furthermore, and more importantly, in quantum theory, it's impossible to have a perfect vacuum. There's always, at the quantum level, the so-called quantum fluctuations in a volume of space. Right? So I propose that 0 and infinity are pairs, are a pair that work together. And infinity is always more than whatever you have, or could have, and 0 is always less than whatever you have, or could have. Thoughts? Okay, cheers.